Yeah, thank you, Ranveer, for joining. And let me introduce before starting the interview. So, myself, Dilip Singh. I'm working as a technical lead in the current organization with 10 years of experience, and I'm taking care of development as well as taking care of responsibilities of requirement and taking care of a couple of deployment and development activities as part of the current project. Okay.
Okay.
So, now let's start with your introduction and then we will proceed with the interview things. Okay.
Yeah. So, good evening. I am Ranveer. I am a Java developer working as a Java developer for past 3 years. So, currently, I'm working in an organization named Online Solutions Private Limited, which is located here in Hyderabad. So, as a part of my experience, I have worked on Java and Spring Boot. So, my major profile belongs to like Java and Spring Boot. So, I am currently working in a project named Adikrit. So, it is a product which is mainly used by the engineering colleges. So in this project, my role is to mainly to develop REST APIs and integrate with the front-end. Like we have used React as front-end technology, and we are using Spring Boot framework as back-end technologies. So we are as a part of project, I have used many Spring modules like Spring Data JPA, Spring Security, and Spring MVC. So along with that, I have also worked on SQL. So we use PostgreSQL as our database. So apart from that, I have worked previously in another project, which is a maintenance project. So there I worked with many clients, like dealing client calls and clearing any queries or issues regarding the project. So yeah, that's it about me.
Okay. So just can you tell me what are the roles and responsibilities you are performing as part of your current project, and at the same time, I'm looking for the details like what kind of work you are doing as part of your project right now, like the development perspective, the flow point of
Yeah.
it, can you explain?
Yeah, sure. So my main role is to develop REST APIs. Apart from that, I need to work with cross-functional teams and gather the requirement. And after gathering the requirement, I need to develop that according to the requirement, develop the product according to the requirement. So as a part of development, I have added many features to our product. So apart from that, I have also worked uh, with deployment processes. Like we work, our product is mainly deployed on premises services. So I worked with XAMPP and Tomcat servers. And apart from that, I have also trained many juniors who are working under me. So these are
Okay.
my
Yeah, that
roles.
is fine. So that means right now you are working on which framework? Spring or Spring Boot?
Spring Boot.
Okay. So that means, I mean, I'm just looking like what kind of work you are carrying as part of your roles and responsibilities. Like, are you implementing any kind of services or what kind of functionalities you are doing?
Yeah,
Um,
actually, our product has got many microservices. So we will be using webflex like things like webflex or REST template in order to connect them. And apart from that, we have also worked on several uh, load balancers. Like we have used Eureka also in our project. So apart from that, we added like I worked on JWT tokens even. We worked on Spring Security. So I worked with my team in generating JWT tokens even. Yes.
okay. Yeah, fine. So then, just start. Let's start with the core Java now. So
Yeah.
how good you are in the core Java? So can you rate yourself like out of 10?
I can rate like 8 out of 10.
Okay, good. So then, for example, we know that nowadays there are a couple of features are being used in our day-to-day application development, like especially the functional programming we are doing, right? So
Yes.
what is the agenda of functional programming and what are the concepts being involved as part of the functional programming?
So the main concepts which were involved in functional programming are like functional interfaces. We are using Lambda expressions majorly, and at the same time we are using method references in order to increase functional programming. The main agenda of this functional programming is to pass that methods to parameters. Like if we are having a method in which we can pass, we can call one more method as a parameter. So we can get the value directly there. So it will ease the workflow, like, and at the same time, it will decrease the number of lines of code even.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah. So what is a functional interface here?
So the functional interface is a Java 8 feature which was introduced in Java version 8. So it is an interface which has got only one abstract method. So all the interfaces which have got only one abstract method are known as functional interfaces. So we can have static or default methods in it. Apart from that, we need to have only just one abstract method.
Okay. So then, for example, before Java 8, we have interfaces, right? So I can define an interface with one abstract method. Even I can consider that one as a functional interface. Then why specifically Java given again as a concept called as functional interface with one abstract method, something like that. We can already achieve same functionality with existing interfaces and we can define only one abstract method as part of that. Then why Java again specifically provided functional interfaces? What is the reason behind it?
So the main reason for involving functional interfaces it is like backward compatibility. When we look at the versions which are below 1.8, we cannot create like static or default methods in that. So if you need to add any functionality or anything, we need to add one more method in that. So adding that method may affect the areas where the method has
See,
already
here the
overridden.
backward compatibility is a concept related to default and static methods
Yeah.
that we can do with functional interfaces as well as regular interfaces also. But my question here it is why specifically functional interface concept is introduced when you are already having an interfaces. For example, you are saying like a functional interface will contain only one abstract method, right?
Yes.
So then you're going with the lambda expressions, all these things, fine. But for example, I have an interface and I created only one abstract method as part of that. Then it is almost equal to functional interface functionality as per your answer, right? Then
Yes.
why they given specifically functional interface? Okay, so let me tell you here. So simple. For example, the regular interface, yes, I can add one interface. Sorry, in the regular interface, I can add zero abstract methods, one abstract methods, more than one also, right? Then it is breaking the functionality of functional interface concept. So that's the purpose they given a concept specifically called as functional interfaces. And to make sure an interface has a functional interface, they given an annotation called as the functional interface. So when you added that interface, definitely you have to make sure one abstract method is presented in the interface, not more than that and even less than that. So that's why they given a concept of functional interface annotation to make sure an interface is always a functional interface. If we can achieve same thing with the regular sorry, regular interface also. But only problem is in future someone else added any abstract method, we can add one more abstract method to the regular interface. So then it is breaking the functional interfaces functionality. So that's why they given a specific annotation called as a direct functional interface. So that will make sure always only one abstract method is present. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, so fine. Now, okay. At the same time, nowadays we know that when we are working with any real-time application, we used to get a number of times multiple exceptions. Okay, so especially the most important exception is null pointer exception. So how
Yeah.
we are managing null pointer exception in our applications?
So in our application, we have is option class, which was also introduced in Java in future. So the main agenda of this class is to deal with these null pointer exceptions. So we used option class in order to deal with null pointer exceptions.
So how will you do that?
So it has got some methods which means is present or is empty. So using these methods, we can see whether the container optional class is a container which will only contain not null objects. So we can see that whether the container is empty or whether the container has got some quantity. So it has got some methods like is empty or is present. So if the object is present inside the optional class, we can get it by using the method. So yeah, we use.
Okay, fine. So do you know any existing predefined functional interfaces which are being used most of the times in our regular stream operations or wherever it is? So we have a couple of existing functional interfaces, predefined
Yeah,
ones.
yeah. I have got idea of that. So uh, we have got some predefined functional interfaces like predicate, which is a predefined functional interface. So and at the same time we have got consumer, at the same time supplier. So coming to the briefing these interfaces. So supplier is an interface which will not take any arguments, but it will be written in a string. And at the same time, when we go to consumer, so it will be taking the argument, but it will not return anything. And coming to predicate, it will be taking arguments like as a string, or it will be returning boolean types. So it is this predicate is mainly used in filter method, which is present
Okay,
in
fine.
stream APIs. And coming to consumer, consumer is mainly used in for each method. And coming to supplier, I don't have that much idea about supplier. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. So then coming to the most important of called as stream API. So you are having knowledge of stream API, that means working experience.
Yeah. I worked on streaming.
Okay. So what kind of operations you are carrying on daily basis?
So I have used like map. I have used at the same time filter. So we use filter like our project. We will be having like we have got list of some students from which we need to filter some students who have got who had passed all the subjects, like who have cleared all the subjects. So we use filter there, and at the same time I have used map. I use the sort, and at the same time we use sometimes we have used flat math even. So apart from that, I also use Animax. Yeah.
Okay, fine. So in Stream API, we have a concept called as intermediate operations versus terminal operations. So what is the
Yeah.
point here? It is intermediate versus terminal.
So firstly, stream pipeline is a sequence of operations which may contain as I said, intermediate or terminal operations. So the main purpose of terminal operations is to terminate the stream and return something, like it may return a list, or it may return a stream, or it may return some other value. So and at the same time, when coming to intermediate operations, so these are as the name says, these are the operations which are performed between, like after streaming and at the between termination operations. So here the intermediate operations will be accepting stream as input, and at the same time they will be returning stream as output. So this is the here examples of some intermediate operations are like map method. So map method, which is present in stream class, it will be accepting the stream as an input, and it will be returning stream as an output. So this is one of the intermediate operations. And at the same time, we can take a filter even, so which is one of the intermediate operations. So coming to termination operations, we can use dot to list, which is a termination operation. And at the same time, if we take any match, it will be returning boolean. So it is also a termination operation.
Okay. Okay. So let's take a requirement like this. I have a couple of employee objects, and every employee is having a salary. So by using Stream API, I want to find out employees. Okay. I want to sort all employee. Sorry, I want to find out highest salary of an employee. I mean, from the list of employees, employee objects, I want to find out who is having highest salary, employee details.
Yeah. So
Can you
should
just
I
share
say?
your screen and can you write down your
Yeah.
logic?
So can I use SPS or Notepad?
Yeah, notepad is fine.
Can you see my screen?
Yes. Just take as a list of employees and
Okay.
yeah, I
So
no
do
need
I
of
need to give?
main public class, all these things. Just take it as like directly employees as a list and then start making everything related to stream.
Okay. So I'm not creating employees object.
Yeah, no need. Just consider as a simple employees. No, I don't want all this.
Okay.
Just consider, yeah, anyway, you just created one object, right? Consider like same thing. You have multiple employees, like employee ID, name,
Okay.
as well as seller. Now just write down a stream pipeline. Yeah.
So you did the maximum salary. So yeah. Using this stream pipeline, we can get the name of an employee who is earning like maximum salary.
Okay. So sort method, you're just comparing and then it will,
Yeah, I am sorting here in descending order, and after that, I am using map method to get the names of the employees who are present in the list. So here we will be getting only names. So after that, I am using find first method, which is present in stream class, to get only the first, name of the element which is present in the first index.
oh, okay, fine. Yeah, okay. Okay. So can you write down one more program? For example, you have an array, integer array, and remove duplicate values from an array. Let's take array something like 1 comma
Okay.
2 comma 3 comma 1 comma
Yes, yes. 1 comma.
2 comma 3 1 2 4 5. Yeah, so just I want a program by eliminating the duplicate values to eliminate the duplicate values.
So yes, so I am using set here. So as set does not allow duplicate elements. So once I add these array elements into the set, so all the duplicates will be removed, and we'll be having only a single value. Yeah,
So without set,
without set.
I don't want to use any collections. I want to use, I don't want to use any collection API classes.
So I will be declaring one more array.
Okay.
Sorry, I cannot recollect this.
So no problem. Okay. So then let's come back to the other topic. So what is the difference between array list and linked list?
Sorry.
What is the difference between array list and linked list?
So yeah, both are the implementation classes of a list. But when coming to array list, so it's like when we declare a simple array list, it will be having a default size of 11. So when we go like when we go behind the screen, it is like an array which has got 11 indexes. So when we come to like a linked list, it is in the form of nodes. So first node will be uh, having a value, and at the same time object reference of the next node. So it will be in the form of nodes being connected in the form of a chain. So the memory consumption is more in array list when compared to linked list. And at the same time, linked list is mainly used to for retrieval operations. Like if you want to retrieve some data using indexes, so array list is used for that purpose. When coming to linked list is mainly used for some operations like any modification operations, like adding a value or sorting, like removing a value. For that purposes, linked list is used majorly.
So fine. We have a concept called as fail fast and fail safe in
Yeah.
connection API. So what is that? Can you give me an example also for that with respect to any predefined functionalities or classes?
Yeah, sure. So firstly, fail fast. It is a it is a method. Sorry, is a name given. So when we are using map or some other collection APIs, like if you are using an array list, if you are trying to iterate the list, and at the same time, if you are trying to do some modifications to the list, like if you are trying to remove the object from the list, we will be getting an exception. like concurrent mapping exception, which means like if you are performing two operations, concurrency operations on a list or some other collections, you will be getting this fail fast exception. In order to overcome that, we have got some other collections like when we take hash map, there is a map called concurrent hash map, which may be used in order to it is fail safe, like it will not fail, so the operation will not be stopped. So let's see with an example. I can show with you an example.
Okay. Hmm. So do you know any design patterns?
Yeah. So uh, I have got like good knowledge of builder pattern and at the same time singleton pattern. So and at the same time I have got good idea about prototype and factory patterns. So for suppose like we have got a map here
So this is regarding which one?
regarding fail safe fail.
Yeah, that's we're talking about. So what is the design patterns you told now? Builder as well as?
Builder prototype factory.
Okay. So what is the prototype design pattern? What it will do?
So prototype design in using this prototype design pattern, we can get like objects like different objects based on the scenarios. Like if we go with singleton, we will be having globally a single object, and at the same time, sorry, prototype design pattern is mainly used for cloning the object. Like if you want to copy a same object, we will be using prototype design pattern. So using this design pattern, we can copy the object same. Like whatever the if you have a single object and if you want a replica of the same object, you can do that using this design pattern, prototype design pattern. So it will be mainly using clonable interface. Yeah, so using this interface, we will be getting only a shallow copy. We will not getting a deep copy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what about the exception handling? Like how you are handling exceptions in your application right now?
So we are using, in order to handle exceptions, we will be majorly using uh, try catch and finally blocks. And at the same time, we have also wrote some user defined exceptions using throws. Sorry, throw.
So have you created anytime any user-defined exceptions?
Yeah, we have created.
Can you give me a scenario where you created and what is the purpose of it?
So when when we have a user and when we are generating when we are creating a new username, like we are when we are enrolling with an email ID. So if the email ID is already existing, like if our database contains already an email ID, if the user is again trying to create a login using the same user ID, we will be throwing an exception like we have got user has already email ID is already being used like that. We have passed exception. So we use illegal argument type exception like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you know about JDBC, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you are using JDBC or JPA in your project?
We are using JPA.
Okay. So what is the difference between JDBC versus JPA?
So JDBC mainly deals with database connections. So if we come across JDBC, we will be connecting with JD. If we want to perform any operations, so we need to connect our database every time. When we take this JPA, so it is built over Hibernate, which is a ORM framework. So it will be using objects like class objects. So we will be mapping it to the tables which are present in the database, and we will be retrieving the data based on that. When we go through JDBC, here we will be writing queries which will be related only to the tables. Whereas in JPA, we will be using class objects in order to retrieve the data or in order to save the data. So that's the main difference between JPA and JDBC.
What is ORM here? What is the concept of
ORM,
ORM?
sorry.
What is the meaning of ORM and what is the point concept of ORM here?
So the main concept of ORM is like mapping our object, like our class object with database tables. Like we will be creating a photo and we will be mapping our class variables with columns which are present in the tables. Like we will be matching this class of mapping this class object with the tables present in the database. And we will be retrieving or saving the data based on the table, not on the table names, but on the class names. Using class names, we will be retrieving the data or we will be saving the data. So in JPA, we will be using entity. So based on that entity only, we will be saving the data or we will be retrieving the data or we will be updating the data.
So, worked on mappings, JPA mappings. Okay.
Like you asking about like one to many.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, I worked on that.
Okay, fine. So, well, let's come back to the Spring or Spring Boot framework. So, what is the difference between Spring versus Spring Boot? Like, why we have two kind of frameworks from the same house?
Yeah, like Spring has like in Spring we'll be having many XML configurations. So we need to so when we need to create a bean event, we need to do some XML configurations. Whereas coming to Spring Boot, it is totally annotation based. So here we can do configurations so here there is uh,
No,
based
I
on
think, yeah, without XML, I can do, we can do bean creation
yeah
in Spring also.
yeah we can do and at the same time if you want to add some dependencies even when we come to Spring we need to add it manually, whereas when coming to Spring Boot we can add them like we have got Spring Starter using which dependencies can be added automatically. So here using Spring Boot we can handle the project simply, like when at the time of creating a project we can use that we can create the project very simply. So that's the main advantage of Spring Boot.
Okay, so yeah, as part of Spring framework or maybe Spring Boot, have you observed any differences between Spring and Spring Boot with respect to functionality or performance point of view?
So majorly, first thing is like I did not work on Spring, so I started my career from Spring Boot. So like I did not observe performance functionality between two.
Okay,
Uh,
fine. So anyway, so yeah, so inside Spring Boot, we have a concept called as dependency injection and
yeah,
IOC principle,
yeah.
right? So what is IOC here? What is dependency injection here?
So IOC here stands for like inversion of control. So the main agenda of this is like framework will be creating the objects for us. So we are not supposed to like we don't have any burden of creating objects for the program for the application. So whenever we require an object, we just need to insert the bean into the application. So beans will be created like objects will be created by Spring framework. So that is the main agenda of inversion of control, like uh, that operation. Coming to dependency injection, if we have got like if one class have got dependent on some other class object, so this injection will be done by Spring itself. Like we need to use some constructor injection or setter injection or field injection in order to inject that bean into it. So Spring will be creating the bean and it will be injecting into the stack.
Okay, how Spring is injecting? Can you tell me how we are achieving the dependency injection in
Yeah,
Spring or Spring Boot?
yeah, we can achieve it using setter injection or constructor injection, or at the same time we can use it using field injection. Like we have got annotation like auto void at the rate auto void. Using that at the rate auto void, we can inject, we can wire a bean to a variable. So and we can use that variable wherever you want the object.
So how many bean objects can I create for a class, for a bean class?
So for a bean class, you can create uh, number of beans, but we have got an annotation like at the rate qualifier or at the rate primary, which can be used like if you use at the rate primary, using this annotation, you can annotate one of the beans like as primary. This is the major bean, and you're using at the rate qualifier, you can get the bean whichever the bean you are required.
No, where I have to declare primary, where I have to declare qualifier. Can you give me a scenario?
Yeah. So we have got a class. So we are trying to inject a bean into that class. So and we had
Let's
many
take
beans.
class A, comma B,
Yeah.
and
So
then tell me how you are going to make
uh,
a direct primary and qualifier functional.
sure. So first of all, we are trying to inject a class A object into class B. Okay.
Okay.
So we have got, for suppose we have got two beans for class A, and if we are trying to inject class A beans into class B, so in class B we will be using qualifier, like which bean of class A should be injected into class B. And when coming to primary, uh, when we are when we are configuring itself, we need to state that which bean is primary.
Okay, so what is the advantage then with the direct primary? What is the
So
advantage with that?
the main advantage of primary is to differentiate like which bean we need. So we have got two beans. So when we are configuring a bean, we can add some data into it, or we can add some our own functionality into it. So based on that, we can take whatever the bean we need.
So qualifier is why we are using qualifier, where we are using?
So qualifier, since we have got two beans, so we are trying to like a single class has got two beans. So it is used to differentiate like which bean we need.
Okay, where you are declaring that?
So in class B, where we are trying to inject class A bean, so FO at the rate auto white, we will be declaring at the rate qualifier there. And
Okay.
in parentheses, we will be giving the name.
If I remove qualifier, then
We will be getting like string will be facing some ambiguity.
if I don't want to get that ambiguity exception, and at the same time I don't want to use qualifier,
So
and
then
still I
we
have two bean objects, then
we need to declare primary at the rate primary, so that the primary object will be injected into that bean.
yeah,
That way,
that is the point. Thanks. So fine. So okay. Now, what about the knowledge of Spring? I mean, you implemented REST services.
yeah, we implemented it.
Okay. So can you tell me what are the guidelines you are following while you are implementing the REST APIs? And can you give me an example, or can you give me a steps what you are doing when you are taking a requirement into consideration? How we are making that requirement into as a service implementation. So what are the approaches you are following? What are the guidelines you are following? Can you explain?
So first thing is like we'll when we get a requirement, we'll see whether it is like fetching the data or we need to add data to database. So if it is like fetching the data, we will be using get method from HTTP methods, and we will be fetching the data from database. And at the same time, when it comes to like adding data, like adding some new data into the database, we will be using a put method from HTTP methods in order to add the data into the database. And at the same time, when it comes to like removing some data from database, like when the requirement is to perform some delete operation, so we will be using delete method from HTTP methods. And at the same time, when it comes to updating some database with data which is already present in the database, we will be using put HTTP method in order to uh, update the data.
For adding, you are saying put method, put or post.
Post.
Okay, fine. Okay, so if it is related to Spring Boot, and assume you have got a requirement for creating a resource kind of requirement, then what are the steps you are following? I mean, with respect to logic implementation, what are the things you are considering into the implementation time?
When we are trying to create a resource, right?
For example, assume you need to you need to implement a REST service for adding product details.
Yeah.
Then what are the things you are doing with respect to
So
that REST
mainly,
service implementation?
so main thing is like we are following MVC structure. So we have divided our application into like a model and view and controller. So we will be having a controller layer where we will be writing the endpoints. So here we are, since we are trying to add a resource into our database, we will be using at the rate post mapping, and we will be writing our own URL like there. And after that, next to the controller layer is service layer. There we will be writing all our business logic, which includes like adding data, like performing operations with our database, and all those things are written uh, in the service layer. So we will be adding our data into the database there. So the next layer, like a repository, which is to which the database is using, which we will be connecting to database using the repository layer.
So you are writing request body classes, right?
Yes.
Okay. So after that, what you are doing? How you are testing that?
So we are using like JUnits. We are writing like continuous integration and testing things, and at the same time, we will be doing REST API testing using Postman.
Okay. So what kind of payloads you are using? I mean, in your application, what data format you are supporting? You are supporting
JSON, like we are using JSON,
only JSON or XML also?
only JSON.
Okay. For example, as part of the REST API implementation, I would like to allow XML as a request payload. Okay, and as well as I would like to produce response also as a XML payload. Then what you have to do?
So when we are trying to like pass the data as in the form of XML, not in the form of JSON, we need to declare the controller like annotation, class level annotation as at the rate uh, at the
Class
rate
level or only REST service method level, endpoint method level?
like first thing is like
See, I
as we
want
are
to make sure this implementation for only one REST service. Maybe REST
okay.
all working with only JSON, but for one specific REST service, I want to allow only XML and I want to produce response also in the XML format.
I have got no idea using XML. So
Okay, so in Spring Boot, you have a concept called as, I mean, you know the post mapping, all these annotations, right?
yeah,
So there you have attributes. What are the attributes available for that annotation?
so we will be having value where we will be giving the
Value.
URL.
And apart from value,
After that, we will be giving consumes. What does that API
yeah,
consumes?
what is consumes here?
So when we provide at the rate post mapping, by default, I think it will be taking JSON
Yeah,
format
yes, yes, yes. Yeah, as part of consumes, you have to define media type as XML.
XML. Okay.
And similarly, as part of one more attribute called as produces, you have to define media type as XML.
XML.
Then the REST service will accept only XML payload
XML.
as a request, and at the same time, the REST service will produce XML as a response. So those two attributes are important when you want to restrict the data format specific to endpoints, whether with respect to the request and response point of view. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, fine. So at the same time, I think you do have knowledge of how to consume REST services from third-party applications or maybe a couple of other microservices. How we are
Yeah.
managing uh, that API consuming.
Like we are consuming our REST APIs using REST template. So we majorly use REST template, and recently we are using Webflex.
Okay, so you are saying like you are working as part of microservices architecture, then how you are managing communication between microservices.
Yeah, we are communicating between two microservices using these Webflex or REST template. So when coming to REST template, it is uh, asynchronous, but Webflex is synchronous by default. So we need to make it as asynchronous. We'll be having a method called block. So using that block, we'll be making it as asynchronous. So as a REST template is being duplicated these days, so we started using Reflex.
Okay. So do you have any knowledge of thin clients?
No,
No, right? Okay. So do you have knowledge of config server?
no. Like I don't have that much of knowledge on config server, but we worked on Eureka server, like for balancing, like load balancing techniques. In order to handle load balancing techniques, we worked on Eureka server.
Okay.
Yeah. So here Eureka server will be having a client and a server. So when we so server will be having all the details about the clients which have got registered. So we will be generating, like we will be declaring the port number as 0 there. So once we declare the port number as 0, the services will be getting created on different ports. So all those will be saved into the uh, Eureka server. So when client hits a REST API, so first it will comes to the Eureka server, and it will, like route to the port which is like which to the port which is having less load, so that the load gets balanced.
Okay. So what is the importance of API gateway?
So the main functionality of API gateway is like in API gateways, we can add functionality like security like related things, such that some anonymous person cannot enter into our application without our authentication. And at the same time, it is also used for routing, I think so. So to my knowledge,
Okay.
yeah.
So what is the difference between monolithic versus microservices?
So in monolithic application, the entire, like we will be not be dividing application into parts. If else we are dividing application into parts, we will be developing it in the form of modules. Like it is having a parent module, and under that parent module we will be having sub modules. So when we are going to deploy any of these modules, like if we want to make changes in any of these modules, we need to deploy the entire module. So entire parent module we need to deploy. So we will be having only one database for that. When coming to microservices, so here we will be having different database for different service. So
So you
if
are
there is any,
using different databases for different microservices in your project?
yeah, like
How
yes,
many
we
databases you are using?
so like to my knowledge, like we have used four.
Four
The
databases. What are those four?
database doesn't mean like we are having different uh, schemas. Like it doesn't mean like we are using Postgres or all the four databases are of like Postgres SQL only. But data will be stored in four different schemas like that.
Yeah, fine
I
then.
was saying that.
Then
Yeah.
okay, so yeah.
In
So what are the
monolith,
drawbacks with microservices?
when so the configurations which we need to do here are very complex. So that's the main problem. That the
Okay,
system I cannot recollect the rest.
okay. So how you are making the deployments? Where you are doing the deployments?
So we are majorly using premise servers. So we are using XAMPP in order to deploy our projects.
Okay, okay. So do you have any exposure on the cloud environment?
No, like I am learning it. So,
Okay. So do you know the difference between path variables versus query parameters?
yeah. So query parameters are like when we want to get when a REST API need to consume a query parameter, we will be using annotation at the rate param. So at the rate path param, or if we need to get a variable like uh, sorry, if you want to get query params from the if REST API is consuming query params, we need to declare a annotation at the rate request param. So we will be requesting. So here request params are in the type of key value. So we will be having a key and we will be having a value. So we can think it as an app. And at the same time, when we are using path param, like we will be appending that variable to the uh, our URL. So we will be appending that variable, sorry, not variable, but the value to the URL. So the that is called path parent. So here we will be writing uh, at the rate path parent like.
So both the values are passing via URL. Then what is the when I have to go with path variable, when I have to go with query parameter? Why do we have two concepts?
So if there are many number of variables, like if when our API is consuming many variables, like if our URL has got many values like name, phone number, and some like that. So then we will be using request param like query params. Here we will be getting key value type. So if it has got some one or two values, then we will be using path variables.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So are you good with database knowledge?
Yes.
Okay. So what are the joins? Why we have joins in SQL?
So in joins, like when we are having two different tables, and when data is present in two different tables, but we want that our data collectively, so we will be using joins. We will be joining both of the tables. So in SQL we have got left join, right join, inner join, and outer join.
Okay. So what is the difference between table versus view? Okay. What is view? First of all, tell me.
What is it? Sorry, I don't recollect what it is.
Okay. So can you write down a SQL query by sharing your screen? Okay. For getting highest salary.
Uh, Using this query, we can get maximum salary.
Okay. Then what about the second highest salary? I don't want first one.
Uh, so using this query, we can get second highest salary. So
Is it the
here I am getting the salary and I am ordering the salary uh, in descending order. And after that, I am setting the offset to one, which means I will be getting the second position. And after that, I am lifting it to one, so I will be getting only one value.
okay? So is it going to work?
Yeah, it will.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, it will work now.
Okay. So do you know how to validate the request payload in Spring? Have you ever
Sorry,
performed validations on REST API?
sorry, I didn't get you. Can you
I
please
mean,
repeat?
for example, you're implementing the REST API services, right?
Okay.
So how you are validating the request payload, whether you are getting required information or not? So how you are making that validations or how you are checking that?
We have got we need to add a dependency, validation dependency. So after adding the dependency for Pozo, so for whatever the request body we are getting from the front end, like along the request body, whatever the request body we are getting, so there we need to validate the variables. So if it is a variable email, we can validate it as at the rate email, and if we don't want the value to be null, so we can annotate it as at the rate not null. And at the same time, when we are declaring uh, within the method signature in controller, we need to provide at the rate valid annotation there, such that that user gets valid.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Rangan. So I'm done with the interview. So looks like you're good. Only thing is you just need to focus on a little bit, especially on the Spring Boot point of view versus Spring also.
Yeah, yeah,
But overall, yeah, fine. Seems to be
yeah,
very well.
yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So that's all from my side. So anything else?
So, so what type of requirement do you have?
Yeah, it's all purely microservices implementation as well as yeah. So we are looking more for the students who is having knowledge of. Sorry, we are looking more the persons who is having more knowledge in the API implementation as well as API consuming point of view, because we are dealing with the entire microservices architecture. So we used to the people should have knowledge of how to implement their services and how to consume their services point of view, as well as we are looking people who can work on their own, like with respect to the logic implementation or building the logic with from the requirement perspective. So who are very much strong in the especially Java 8 features and functional programming point of view we are looking, and as well as REST API. So this is all the requirement is we are looking. So that's all just we are looking.
Okay.
So anything else?
Okay. No. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Anand. Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Thank you.